Have you ever seen somebody and you just long to know more about them? You want to know, what they're up to, the similarities you guys have in common, the things they like, places they've been, just really anything behind them in general? Well, if you have, you've experienced the uncertainty reduction theory. Well, the uncertainty reduction theory is the increased knowledge of what kind of a person another person is. Also, it can improve the forecast of the future interactions that you guys may have later on. So, within the uncertainty reduction theory, you'll find that it can predict and explain situations. There's axioms of uncertainty. You can learn how to cope with uncertain responses, strategies to find information, and also you learn about relational turbulence. So, for the first thing, uncertainty reduction theory can predict and explain situations. However, these words do go hand in hand, but they don't mean the same thing. For example, as you predict something, your uncertainty decreases as your prediction increases. This often leads to the question, why do people do things the way that they do? Which is explained in the attribution theory. The attribution theory is basically making inferences on people by, the way that they behave in general. There are two types of uncertainty, and this is behavioral and cognitive. Behavioral is knowing whether or not to behave in a certain way in certain situations, and cognitive is pretty much getting to know traits and characteristics about somebody else in certain situations as well. Along with all the different types of behaviors, there are axioms. And what an axiom is, it's a self-evident truth that requires no additional proof. And the job of it is basically to explain uncertainty in relationship development. So the axioms are simply explained by yourself. There's verbal communication, nonverbal communication, information seeking, self-disclosure, reciprocity, similarity, liking, and shared networks. And basically those are all self-explanatory on how you find things out about a person. Next, there is ways to reduce uncertainty with the axioms that I've just said. There's a passive, active, interactive, extraactive, hedging, and a planned complexity for reducing uncertainty. The passive is, watching someone else talk to someone to see if you can find any information about how that person is. Kind of creepy, but it's a thing. The active is a third-party info. So you have a friend who knows a friend that you are interested in. You can ask that friend to tell you more about that person. The interactive is face-to-face, which is obviously just finding things out from the actual person themselves instead of third parties or anything like that. The extraactive, which is probably the most popular today, is the internet. And I think Facebook. So if you want to know something about someone, go to Facebook. Want to know if they're in a relationship? Facebook. Want to know their religion? Facebook. Want to know who their friends are and what they're doing on a Saturday night? Facebook. I guarantee you'll find all those answers there. Plan complexity. That is having more than one plan. So if one plan doesn't work out, hopefully plan B will work out. And hedging is, making things into a humorous situation. So instead of awkwardly okay, goodbye, you'll be like, oh, just kidding, I didn't mean to say that anyway, and make it funny so it's not awkward. Along with all of that, there's relational turbulence. This is when there's negative emotions that arise in closer relationships, and relational turbulence can potentially end up in a breakup. This is basically just having your own doubts or doubting the other person on how they truly feel about, one another. I think it's really important to, self-disclose in that case because you really do need to communicate with relationships to work. So I read a study, and it was basically just about the uncertainty reduction, how it facilitates the perceptual disconfirmation of negative expectancies and computer-mediated communication. It basically talks about whether or not a person is more comfortable talking to someone first meeting them, or if they're talking to them 30 minutes tops online first before they meet in person. And the study shows that the interaction on the internet before they meet does make them a little bit more comfortable knowing like who this person is. I believe that all of these theories are accurate. I think that we implicitly live this out in our lives every day. I can relate to this, at my job at the bank. Normally, I know who customers are, what they want to do, but if I see a customer that I'm not familiar with, then I'm like, oh, who are you? Why have I never seen you? And that's implicit thoughts because we don't even do it like willingly. Overall, I think uncertainty is something that we all experience some point in our life with some person or some situation. And I think knowing how the uncertainty reduction theory works will heighten your chances to understand why you do the things you do, why you feel the things you do, and say the things you do. And understanding the strategies that help reduce uncertainty can make things a little less awkward at the start. And lastly, I think knowing that relational turbulence is normal and okay, it will teach you how to learn to deal and cope with it if it happens. So now you can be certain that you know more about the uncertainty reduction theory.